Hello, MennoNerds, it's Will, and I have a parable about troublemaking. A few years ago, the Canadian city of Vancouver had a very strong hockey team. Not so much the case anymore, but they had a prolific hockey team, and for a long time they were perennial favorites to win the Stanley Cup. Well, the one year they had a chance, they got all the way to the finals. They won 3 of the first few games and only needed one more. And so the fan base was getting ready to celebrate, was getting ready to rejoice across the city and have the Stanley Cup paraded through their town. But they fell short. The Boston Bruins, the team they were playing against, started to win more games, and pretty soon it was 3-3, and the final game was going to be played in Vancouver. And so they were preparing for the game on the ice. But off the ice, something entirely different was happening. People were gathering who were prepared not to celebrate a victory, but who were prepared to revolt against a loss. And when that happened, when the Vancouver Canucks lost, there was pandemonium, mayhem in the streets. There was a riot. Stores were looted, people were hurt, cars and buildings were burned, all because of a hockey game. Now, this is relatively new. We as hockey fans are not accustomed to violence off of the ice. In hockey, we keep the violence on the ice, and in soccer, they keep the violence off of the field and in the streets. But for us, this was quite new. And so the rest of the hockey world, the rest of Canada, turned to Vancouver and we asked, what happened? What is wrong with your city, your people, that this kind of violence could take place just because of a hockey game? The response from Vancouver was clear. These were not our people. These were not hockey fans. These were troublemakers. These were troublemakers that had come in from other places. People who wanted to cause trouble and weren't there for hockey at all. And so we believed the story. But as time went on, as more and more security footage was released, as more and more people were arrested, as more and more stories were told, we found that, in fact, these were Vancouver people. These were hockey fans. And so the story started to fall apart. The people who claimed that Vancouver was a city of peace and acceptance had to come to terms with the fact that these rioters, these violent troublemakers, were in fact their own people. See, it would be convenient for the city of Vancouver to say that they brought the trouble, they were the trouble. But if there's something about the way that Vancouver runs, or the people who live there, that invites those kinds of troublemakers and that kind of mindset, then it really is their trouble that they are responsible for. Now, we within the church have been having similar conversations. Within the church, there are voices that suppress dissent and minimize the voices from communities based on race or socioeconomic status, gender orientation, etc., etc. And so we have troublemakers amongst us who advocate for those voices, and we need those voices because the problems that they are creating in many ways are created by us within the church, not just the leaders, all of the church. And so we need to take ownership of our troublemakers and the trouble that they create, because it is not just their trouble, and it is all of ours.